So pretty soon here, we're going to be getting to 53 down cut downs. We've already had some cut downs already, but the Browns are going to be getting to that point pretty soon here. So what I wanted to do today is go through the whole roster and kind of predict based on what they've done in years past, where the Browns are going to cut some players and where they're not going to cut some players, and just talk about who could make the 53-man roster. So that all sounds interesting. Can't wait to do it. So let's just kind of jump into it. And the way I did this is they have a template of how they kind of do this some years past that can change. I will walk you through it as I go. But first, we're going to start with the quarterback position. They're going to keep two officially on the roster. I don't think they end up keeping three, but I do think they keep two. Jacoby Brissett and Josh Dobbs. Watson, I don't believe his roster spot counts until he's reinstated. So they won't have to worry about keeping a roster spot available for him as well as some other players. The next position here is running back. I think they could keep 3 to 4. And again, this is where this is flexible, right? Because Johnny Stanton's here at fullback. Let's say they don't keep a fullback, then that spot gets dissolved, and then that roster spot gets absorbed by D'Ernest Johnson. If they can trade D'Ernest Johnson, I think they would. But if they don't feel like they got proper value, I think they'll just cut Johnny Stanton and then go with D'Ernest Johnson and just not have a fullback. But running back, we know there's 3 locks here. I mean, this is not much of a date. Chubb, Hunt, and Jerome Ford. D'Ernest Johnson, somebody who can make the roster there as well. If certain things move around, but he will make somebody's roster. He just won't. He might be traded, right? Or Johnny Stanton might be on the team, right? So that's one of those either or spots. At wide receiver, they kept 6 last year. I have them with 6 this year. I think it's going to be Coop, DPJ, David Bell, Anthony Schwartz, and Demetric Felton. And then Michael Woods or whoever you want, Mike Harley Jr., whichever one. I think it's probably going to be Mike Woods since he was a draft pick. Tight end, it's going to probably be Njoku, Bryant, and Nakia Griffin-Stewart. I like this room enough. I was worried about this room, to be honest. These 2 rooms, I was worried the most. I'm still worried about the wide receiving room. Coop, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Bell. I always have this theory with wide receivers, right? Whenever you think you have a super deep room, you need to add more to it with wide receivers because bodies just go down, similar to how you feel about DBs. And whenever you don't feel like you have enough depth, what can go wrong will go wrong, knock on wood. But that's usually what happens, right? When you don't feel like you have enough depth at that position. These guys go in and out of games so often. These guys, have hot streaks and cold streaks so often. These guys get injured so often that it's really tough to not have depth in those areas. Offensive line, you can get away with not having depth a lot of the times because offensive linemen are just so durable. Same thing with defensive linemen. Same thing with linebackers, right? Those positions, safeties, they're usually durable. But cornerbacks and wide receivers tend to be one of the least durable positions because they're fast twitch positions. Fast twitch positions lead themselves to soft muscle tissue injuries all the time. Those are the injuries that nick and knack people out for like a week or two. And that's why there's so much movement in those and why you need so much depth in that. And I just worry about this, right? Because one week Cooper could be out. Maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones is dealing with something and you're left with David Bell and Anthony Schwartz. It's terrible, right? So it doesn't take much for you to get the worst case scenario is my point at wide receiver. I'm worried about that. Tight end, I'm not as worried about that, right? It's a more durable position. I have more faith in Njoku staying healthy and Harrison Bryant staying healthy. If it gets to Nakia Griffin-Stewart, it gets to him, but it's not a problem. Now, speaking of depth, where the Browns have all the depth in the world, offensive line, man. Jedrick Wills, lock. Joe Bitonio is a lock. Ethan Ponick is a lock. I mean, especially now. I mean, Wyatt Teller, lock. Jack Conklin, lock. And now since Harris is out, and he's not going to count towards a roster spot since he's on IR. Not Jack Conklin. James Hudson, who was a lock to begin with. And then you have Michael Dunn and Chris Hubbard. Now, Michael Dunn, I think, is a lock because he can be the backup center. He is the backup center. And he can be backup guard both sides. And I think Hubbard or Blake Hance, right? This is where this battle is. It's either going to be Hubbard or Blake Hance to be that swing tackle, whichever one they like more. but that's pretty much the room. They keep 8 usually, 5 and 3 backups. They have their backup for right tackle in their project in James Hudson. Michael Dunn is the utility guy, so he does 3 different positions, which puts Hubbard in an awkward spot because that used to be Hubbard's position. So if Dunn takes that spot where he's center and both guards, Hub's really just a swing tackle at this point. Who do they feel better with as a swing tackle, Blake Hance or Chris Hubbard? We'll find out. I would rather go with Hubbard because what I've seen from Hubbard at the tackle position has just been better than what I've seen out of Blake Hance. But Blake Hance has that added versatility of being able to be a really decent guard, where Chris Hubbard's not as good as a guard as Blake Hance. So that's going to be the battle there. Either way, there's a ton of depth here. It's going to be hard to get this room down to 8. So, congrats to Bill Callahan and that offensive line staff. They've done an excellent job. This is just a tremendous offensive line room. And the defensive side of the ball, my goodness, man, cutting dudes on this defensive side of the ball, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to get to 53 here. So safety, it's tough here, right? John Johnson's going to make the team. Ronnie Harrison's going to make the team. That Grant Delpit's going to make the team. No doubt. Richard LeCounte, you're pretty sure, right? And then you have guys like DeAnthony Bell, who's had an excellent camp, and Javonte Moffitt, who's been a pretty solid contributor for this team for years, especially on the special team side. I think this is a battle between these 2 players. This is a special teams battle, right? Because there's not enough room for them to get on the actual playing field. It's going to be between DeAnthony Bell and Javonte Moffitt. I think DeAnthony Bell ends up winning that battle and being that special teamer / occasional safety whenever they need it. Maybe he might even do some slot work. I don't know. Maybe they can see that. He has really good ball instincts and he's really good blitzing. And he's a pretty good tackler for that position. I would try him out there, see if that works. But we'll see what they do with that. This DB room is ridiculous. I'm going to be honest with you. This is ridiculous. When you have 6 guys and all 6 of them have incredible potential, it's crazy. So Denzel Ward, he's already realized a lot of that potential, right? He's one of the best corners in football. Greg Newsome, I think he could be right up there with him. Really, after this camp, I think he'd be right up there with him. We'll see what this move to nickel does. I wasn't a fan of it when I first heard of it, but now that I've heard it explained in more detail and seen it and what they're actually trying to do, I'm not as concerned with it. We'll see what happens during the season, but I'm not as concerned with it. Ignore that Troy Hill there. But they also have Greedy Williams here, who, is a pretty good option. AJ Green III, MJ Emerson. So that's 5 guys locked in. There is a battle for that last spot. I'm thinking maybe they go DeAnthony Bell and then keep Javonte Moffitt as another safety so they can have extra special teamers. But these are the 5 DBs that they're going to keep in play. I think there's probably some rotation that they do there. So maybe they keep 6 safeties technically, but 2 of them are special teamers. And I think this is how Javonte Moffitt finds his way back on the roster, is through this lane. Linebackers, I really think they should only keep 4, but I think they're going to keep 5. J.O.K., Anthony Walker, Jacob Phillips, Taki, and then maybe Tony Fields after that. But I don't really see the need to keep Tony Fields. Unless it's special teams, and then, you got to keep Tony Fields. But Tony Fields probably going to be kept on the roster. I would actually rather lose Tony Fields, keep Moffitt, and then add an extra defensive end for defensive line depth than just keep Tony Fields at this point. I like Tony Fields. I think he's put together some good tape. But just this defense is so loaded, you're just going to have to get rid of good players. And I think you're going to need a player of his caliber more so on the defensive line than you need him as a 5th linebacker and a special teamer. But let's go to defensive end. Myles Garrett, there's no doubt, right? Anybody think Myles Garrett going to get cut? Let me know in the comment section. You think Myles Garrett's going to get cut on 53 cut down day? I don't think he has anything to worry about. Jadeveon Clowney, obviously, he's going to be fine. Alex Wright, he's going to be fine. This is where it gets interesting. Chase Winovich, Isaiah Rochelle, and Isaiah Thomas. I don't think Chase is a lock to make this team. Now, he didn't play last preseason game. That pretty much would say that he's a lock with the coaching staff, but we've seen stranger things happen. I feel like Rochelle deserves this spot more. Of the 3, I say Rochelle's the best player, but he's older. He's like 27. He's going to be cheaper than like Winovich, but Winovich is going to cost you more in the cap. And Isaiah Thomas, I think it's comparable, but he's super young, super cheap. So outside chance Isaiah Thomas takes this spot. I think there's a better chance that Winovich gets in and Isaiah Thomas gets in as the fifth DN and they just keep 5. I don't think they keep all 6, but there is an outside chance that they keep Rochelle and IT. But I think it's going to be some combination of those 3, and I think they end up keeping 5. One of those 2 between IT and Rochelle, and then probably Winovich is how this is looking. But I will say, I think Rochelle could be more useful than Chase Winovich from what I've seen in camp. I just have not been impressed with Winovich at all, unfortunately. All right, defensive tackle I have here as Taven Bryant, Tommy Togiai, Jordan Elliott, Perion Winfrey. Who knows who that last spot is? That's going to be somebody on a different team. I think that's an open spot. I think you can pin lock down. That's an open spot. They keep 5. They don't value the position. They're going to pick up somebody from a different roster because what they have on this roster just isn't enough right now. But we'll see. And in special teams, no debate here. It's going to be Bojo, Cade York, and Charlie Hewlett. That's going to be the 3 special teamers, dedicated special teamers that they keep. That's my prediction for the 53-man roster. Let me know if I missed anybody. Let me know who you think is going to make the roster down below. But y'all have a great day. Have a good night.